made myself cry describing an imaginary version of this movie.
For a few years, I've been reviewing bad Christmas specials on my movie matchup blog at Colin Watches Movies, and this year I'm taking the reviews to YouTube along with some friends. Some will be reviews of specials that are new to me, others will be revisiting some old least favorites. Today is one I reviewed a couple years ago, and I will be reviewing that with someone you've seen on my channel before if you watch Lie, Cheat, and Steal. He is a writer, and he is in a movie club with me. It's Eize. Hello.
Hey, Colin, thank you for having me.
Yes,
really
thank you for being here.
it.
And you had a reason for picking today's movie, which is the 2002 movie, The Christmas Shoes.
Yeah, the 2002 classic, The Christmas Shoes. um, uh, no, when you and I were first talking about what we want to do, I saw your list, and you had such a great eclectic list. I love how into this you are. But Christmas Shoes kind of stood out to me because I am, I guess, kind of unironically a fan of just glurgy, schmoopy, heartwarming Christmas movies. I know they're awful. I'm not saying they're not awful.
Yeah.
And they rarely do anything to me emotionally. But my defense of them is not very deep. I find them pretty comforting, and I like to have them on in the background. I've actually probably seen hundreds of Lifetime, Hallmark sort of Christmas movies, but I think this is the first time I've ever actually watched one, because they're just always playing. Last year, CMT was showing, and again, my feelings for them are unironic, but my appreciation of them is definitely ironic. I'm always trying to find the ones that look like the absolute worst. Yeah. And my sister's the same way. So she texted me and she's like, "Oh my God, there's a Christmas movie on where I don't know, Garth Brooks is playing a guardian angel." So oh my God, I gotta watch that. Turn that on. And so, but it wasn't that. It was some country band, Lady Antebellum or something that is apparently starred in a trilogy of Hallmark or Lifetime or CMT Christmas movies that they were showing back to back to back, but interestingly without the credits, or maybe the credits were minimized and I just wasn't paying attention.
It was the Snyder cut of.
Right. So, well, literally I was 7 hours into this, doing dishes and cooking my meal plan for the week and, just folding laundry. I'm how long is this movie? It was really fascinating. But yeah, like I said, my appreciation of them, I'm not making some big deep point. I like them. And if I were to make a big deep point, I would say, my sister and I were raised really, really poor. And when I tell people I was born in a trailer in West Virginia, I mean I was literally born in a trailer in West Virginia. My grandmother delivered me. So, wow. And as someone else said, we never went hungry, but we certainly had the same dinner every night for a long time. So something about watching these, upper middle class families experience Christmas, I don't know, it just scratches something. It's sort of like the movie Big, weirdly enough. It takes place in this really gorgeous upper middle class Connecticut suburb, and there's something that's all us poor kids watched Big. If you're in your 40s now and you were a poor kid in the 80s, you watched Big and was that's what I want. That's where I want to live. And I guess that's kind of just stuck with me.
There's an escapist quality to it. Even the cheesy Hallmark movies where it's just a nice setting. It's I read a quote recently that someone said, maybe there was never America, maybe it was just Frank Capra.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. And that really sums up how I feel about these movies.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not, I have them on when I'm cooking soup. It's not I'm making plans to watch them, and I am trying to find the worst. But I would say overall there's nothing wrong with watching something that depicts life the way you want to see it. I mean that we do it all the time, and for some reason, and I have a theory about why that is. For some reason, Christmas movies are kind of targeted, whereas there's plenty of escapist stuff for men, westerns, NCIS. There's all sorts of stuff that kind of portray life the way that men wish it were. I saw, I guess it was NCIS, Mark Harmon, he has a plane that's a boat, and he's living out
Yeah,
in
he's like
Alaska.
designing a boat in his basement. I don't know how he gets
Yeah,
it.
it's like how is this any like the dude works for the FBI or whatever. He probably makes like $35,000 a year, but he lives in like this like sprawling cabin in Alaska, and he's making a boat.
Yeah, and women throw themselves at him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is hardly a controversial take, but I think the big reason these Hallmark, Lifetime, etc. movies are hated on so much is just like anything else in our culture that's made by women and for women. It kind of has to be crapped on, has to be denigrated and looked down upon.
Yeah.
And sort of one of the interesting things about this, my sister pointed this out, is like one of the things that's so nice to her about this time of year is that she can turn on the TV and just pick a random channel and watch a movie that foregrounds the life of a woman as opposed to foregrounding the life of a man.
Sure.
Which isn't always true. Now, obviously, neither me nor my Christmas movie watching buddy, my sister, would say that like it's a feminist paradise, these Christmas movies. I mean, one of the tenets is like, this career woman doesn't know what she needs. She needs to move to Vermont and run a Santa Claus. Yeah, run a Santa Claus village with a hunk and give up a career. Like that's not great. I will say that just like a lot of things, the sort of like popular culture parody of these movies isn't always really what they are. Especially in the last few years, there's definitely been a change in these kind of Christmas movies. They've become a little bit more aware of their tropes. I don't mean that they're like self-referential or meta or anything, which thank God.
Right.
I mean, that's actually probably another thing I really like about these movies is that they just exist as themselves. They don't exist as something else, or like a commentary.
Right. Yeah.
Look, I know I'm not going to make converts. If you don't like these crummy basic cable Christmas movies, you don't like them. I'm certainly not going to die on this hill. I'm just saying this is why I like them, and why as soon as we finish this, I'll be turning on a random channel and watching someone who was on Days of Our Lives for 10 years fall into love with the handyman.
There you go. Who turns out to be an elf.
Yeah, exactly. You really nailed the random Santa Claus appearance of this, because I watched one that was, I can't, God, please don't make me remember these names, but like it was explicitly based on Pride and Prejudice. It takes place in the modern day, in which all conflict between Darcy and Elizabeth completely removed from the movie, but there was an appearance by Santa Claus in the end.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. I wish that they'd expand out. I like this stuff so much. I wish they'd expand out to other. Let's see some Hallmark 4th of July movies.
They've tried Hanukkah ones and they're pretty offensive.
Oh, nice. Well, okay. Probably would not be into those.
Yeah. So everyone always asks, "Oh, you watch bad Christmas movies like Hallmark?" I'm like, yeah. Oh no, Hallmark is something to make fun of. It's just the same thing every time.
Yeah.
I watch, Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
Right, exactly.
But I did have to pull this up. I kept thinking this was a Hallmark movie, The Christmas Shoes. It's in spirit, it is, but it actually aired on CBS for some reason.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because one of the things I wanted to talk about with this is this is 2002, which is actually really early in the Christmas movie industrial complex.
Yeah.
The formula hadn't really been set yet, and I think that's interesting. That makes the movie kind of interesting in terms of it being one of the proto movies that inspired this whole huge genre. 140 new Christmas movies came out this year. I looked it up,
and only 128 starred Lori Loughlin.
Yeah, that's it. So one of the things that's kind of interesting about this is that it's not a romance, because pretty quickly the stereotypical Christmas movie immediately became a romance.
Oh yeah.
Especially the Lifetime ones. The Hallmark ones, they kind of open out a little bit, but the Lifetime ones almost exclusively are romance. This one's not a romance. And actually, what's funny is watching it, thinking it was an early Hallmark movie, I was wondering who where the romance was going to be. It's like, is Rob Lowe going to hook up with this lady dying of heart disease? Like, what is this about?
Hey, do you know the song this is based on?
Oh yeah, so let's talk about that before we really get into it. So I don't
believe the worst Christmas song of all time.
Yeah, Patton Oswalt has a great bit about it. Jezebel, I saw, voted it the worst Christmas movie or Christmas song of all time.
Yeah, I ran a poll on my blog a couple years ago, and it won.
Wow.
It beat out Tiny Tim's Santa Claus Has Got the AIDS and John Denver's Please Daddy Don't Get Drunk This Christmas. They were the two runners up.
Mm.
And this won without any contest. It wasn't even close.
You know, I listened to it to talk to you. I actually don't think I've ever heard it before, which it's not surprising. I don't listen to a ton of radio, so I don't know where I would have heard it. But it is genuinely terrible. I had no ironic appreciation or unironic appreciation of it.
No, because it just tries to keep pulling at the heartstrings over and over. It's probably the most ridiculous story song ever written.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like on the scale of the scales, like Nice Delight Went Out in Georgia down to this. Just
right.
Oh. It's about like a guy who kid's like, hey, my mom's dying. I don't have enough money to buy her some shoes. And he's like, sure, I'll buy shoes. And that's what Christmas is about.
Right.
Objective.
Yeah, it is. And you know, that whole beat carries over into this movie because that also is very perfunctory, which we'll probably talk about a bit later. So I looked up the Christmas song, and it was just, you know, the classic like one-hit wonder song where like the band wrote it with a shock jock, which was kind of weird, and then like it became like this big hit. And so this is like, even though this was like 1998 or whatever, this feels like such a relic of the past where like they released it and it was a top 100 hit. The very next year, just some other band covered it and it also became a top 100 hit.
They had a country hit with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it more as a country song, weirdly enough. Yeah.
And then it was within 3 years, it was turned into a series of novels and a series of movies. Like I'm trying to imagine any song from 3 years ago. Like if we're standing here and be like, wow, they've made a movie of that song or of that novel that was based on that song.
Yeah. Has any, I'm sure, like Thank You Next, the holiday special?
Yeah. WAP.
The guy who sings the song has the most, and Patton Oswalt makes fun of this. It's the growliest voice. It's just, I'm gonna smoke 100 cigarettes before singing. And he just goes all in. And he loses his voice and never sang again, probably.
When I was first watching, I was like, wait a minute, where was Rob Lowe in his career? Because in my head, he was like, had to do these stupid movies because of the sex tape scandal. But that was like almost 20 years before when he did, or no, more than 20 years.
That was like 87, right? Because
87 is 2002.
88.
So it's like 15 years after that. And I was like, he had been starring in West Wing for 3 seasons when he did this movie.
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys, and I guess I kind of respect this. He will do anything. Like if Rob Lowe doesn't really have this reputation, but if you look at his, like, if you read his Wikipedia page, as I just did, he has done everything you can do in the entertainment industry. He famously hosted the Oscars, or infamously hosted the Oscars. Yeah. He's hosted game shows. Him and his sons have had a reality show.
They found Bigfoot.
Yeah, all these things that he will just do whatever. And it's kind of funny to me. So he claimed afterwards that he left West Wing because he wasn't being respected, which it's like, buddy, you're running off to Vancouver to film a movie based on a novel, based on a song. Like, how much respect do you really think? So
they probably made fun of him for being in this.
Yeah, that's probably, they were making fun of the Christmas shoes.
Sure. So this movie has 2 different timelines. It starts 15 years in the future, which means the majority of this movie is set in the 80s, which you pointed out. And there's no signs of it at all.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck figuring out that this movie was set in the 80s. Yeah. I mean, part of it is we're watching it from such a remove that, 2002 looks like the 80s anyway. So like it seemed weird to do. But the other thing that's so funny about that, I mean, I don't even mean like the look, like the cars and their clothes and stuff, because none of that was supposed to look like 1987 or whatever. But also just like the film quality and the fact that, obviously it's in 4:3. And now granted, you and I were watching a pretty terrible VHS rip.
Yeah.
But like, it looks so, like I'm watching, I was like, I can't believe that anyone who was 27 years old when this thing was on TV would still be alive. And here I am. Hello. I mean, like this really makes me recontextualize a lot of my memories where like, we think, remember that incredible date I had with that woman? That would have been around then. And like, it doesn't look like this movie in my head, but it must have. I don't know.
I mean, this came out the same year. You can put it in context. Same year Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers came out.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually have when I was watching, it's like, I can't believe 9/11 had already happened when this movie came out. Like, it just feels like such a weird relic.
They definitely added that date to the tombstone at the end, saying, "Oh crap, I have to set this movie in the '80s now because it's 15 years later."
Right, and it brings to mind an amazing alternate version of this movie where most of the action took place in what film in 2002.
Yeah,
thought 2017 would be like. Like they'd all still have like candy bar cell phones, in 2017.
Yeah, and I'm sure most of the people in this movie probably voted for Trump.
Yeah, yes.
The characters, not the actors.
Right. Actually, can I talk a little bit about the cast and crew? Because
absolutely.
There are a few people that are really interested. So we talked about Rob Lowe, who will just just do it. I don't get the sense he'll do anything because he loves money, or it just seems like a kind of a puppy dog of a guy, I guess, or just like, yeah, I'll do that, and I have time. I don't care.
Why not?
Also, Rob Lowe doesn't seem like the brightest of fellas, so I don't know.
I don't think he likes to stand still for long. I think he's basically his character on Parks and Rec, where he's always moving.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing about so there's a framing device. We should tell the viewers that there's a framing device where he shows up at a cemetery,
right?
And he says, "Anything will change your life. A child's laugh, pair of shoes. I can't remember.
Fixing a car.
Yeah, right. But it's like a child's laugh. Come on, that is no offense to children and laughter, but that's not going to change anybody's life.
No.
So I love you full-throatedly agreeing that children's laughter changes nothing. But so he's like, anything will change your life. Why, I remember when a pair of shoes changed my life. It was about 15 years ago. And so then it cuts back and you realize we're seeing Rob Lowe's character as he looked 15 years ago. But in the frame, they did no attempt to make him 15 years older whatsoever.
No, not the slightest.
It looks exactly the same. They didn't put like a little gray at his temples.
No.
They didn't in anything. But Colin, as you pointed out, that's actually realistic since Rob Lowe basically has looked the same for about 30 years now. Yeah,
since about like the early 90s, he's looked the same. So I guess that was accurate. Did it look to you in the first scene when he meets the man we later find out to be the boy in this story that the man was peeing on the gravestone?
That is pretty amazing.
Like the way it was framed, it really looked like he was. But yeah.
So the whole conceit of the framing story is something that I don't think is true, which is that it's uncommon to visit graves on Christmas, which I think
it's like no one else comes here on Christmas. Why?
It's like I've been coming here every 15 years and I've never seen anyone really on Christmas. You don't want to go like pay respects to grandma. Like I don't do it, but like I it's not that weird. They're talking about like it's a cultural taboo.
Yeah, I've never heard of that being a cultural taboo, especially if you're in town anyway with family. Like they're probably there.
Yeah, exactly. Why not go through, leave a beloved heirloom that your mom had when she died? Just leave it out in the snow. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. So cast and crew. Just want to talk about a couple things real quick. Andy Walk, the director, he's mostly directed stuff like this, but he's done episodes of The Sopranos. And other things. He's kind of a journeyman director. He got his start in the 70s doing avant-garde theater. And there was no theater as avant-garde theater in the 70s, early 70s. I was kind of hoping that it just became some weird freak out, or like the movie ends by them realizing they're in a movie, like how all those terrible 70s movies ended.
Like Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Blazing Saddles has a great ending, but yeah, there's a very self-serious strain of avant-garde films. Just these kind of these very bohemian 70s British films where more often than not, it would end with like the camera pulling back to reveal the soundstage at the end. Hate that period.
That happened in this movie, it would have been by mistake.
Yes. So the woman who died, that's very funny, by the way. I'm sorry, I just caught what you said. That's very funny. The woman who died of movie cancer. Movie cancer is that disease that women in movies get where it doesn't.
In soap operas.
Right. It doesn't make them ugly. Oh God, it does not make them ugly. It keeps them very pretty. very presentable, very mobile, right up until they drop dead. Like
Right.
unlike in real life, it's a terminal illness that does not affect you in any way until you die.
Yeah, it just you glisten as you go out peacefully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the lady who died of movie cancer is Mrs. Brad Paisley. I mean, she's an actor. She was an actress in her own right for a while. I believe she's probably retired at this point. Has some kids that she
still does Hallmark movies. Actually, I saw her on Seth Meyers not too long ago. Her sister's also an actress. Yeah.
Yeah, very pretty. The actress is very pretty in this movie.
Kimberly Williams and her sister is Ashley Williams. Yeah, they've both been on a bunch of things. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mrs. So I kept a running list of people in this movie who were probably richer than Rob Lowe. So Kimberly Williams probably richer than Rob Lowe, being Mrs. Brad Paisley. And then the kid who plays their child, their daughter, has been on a Canadian series called Heartland for 15 years. I mean, like for a super long time.
Yeah. There were some definite Canadians in this, you can tell.
She would probably yes. Well, one of the hallmarks, no pun intended, one of the hallmarks of these kind of movies is that the adult actors can hide their Canadian accents, but the kids can't. Yeah. So the Hallmark and Lifetime movies take place in like this weird alternate reality where like the pupil stage of a human is like a Canadian, and then slowly over time they grow up and they shed their Canadian exoskeleton and become
they break out of the shell. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, especially the main kid. Boy, he had a tough Canadian, or whatever. Canadian accents are fine. I just mean he had a thick one.
Yeah, but it was set in like Boston, so that's definitely not
right. Yeah. So yeah, the woman. She was a kid then, who plays is probably in Canada more famous than Rob Lowe. I think more people would probably like, hey, it's the lady from Heartland. And I have to say, this is another one of those things where this movie was kind of a trip because I don't know, she's probably 35 now. That makes sense. Is that math? Right. Let's see, 20 years ago. Yeah, she would have been 15. And I know her. So my sister and my mom love Heartland. They watch it all the time together. And so when I'm visiting them, I see a lot of Heartland. And I know her as a grown woman. I mean, obviously 35, that's not remotely old, but, I know her as a fully grown woman.
Right.
And it was so weird to be watching this movie because to me, 2002 was like 3 or 4 years ago. And it was not so long ago that this person I've seen, as a fully grown adult is a child in this movie. It's really bizarre. And again, Rob Lowe looks exactly the same. So
yeah, he's just the ageless. He just he stays throughout all the generations.
I have no interesting trivia about the woman who plays really anyone, or the people who play anyone else. They all are just like solid Canadian actors.
Yeah.
Aside from the fact, I was going to say, aside from the fact that the woman who plays Rob Lowe's extremely waspy wife in this movie is actually from Spain. Her name's Marissa Del Mar de Castillo.
I would not have guessed that from her appearance.
Yeah, it's funny because she has a name that, like, if you were a terrible writer and in a rush, it was like, write a Spanish woman's name. It's like, okay, Maria, okay, Del Mar, Castillo, sure, throw that in. It's great, we're done.
So there were two others that I have notes on that, because the woman who plays Rob Lowe's mother, which I wrote in my notes, they really wanted Piper Laurie but couldn't afford her. But that is actually Donald Sutherland's ex-wife.
Oh, wow.
And Kiefer Sutherland's mother.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and
crazy.
Then the teacher is Dorian Harwood, who is acting circles around everybody else in this Canadian TV movie. Yes. He was in Sounder, I believe, and some other movies. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's fantastic.
Not to jump ahead too much, he has my favorite line delivery in the whole movie, where the kid is trying to, I don't think it spoils anything to say he's trying to get these shoes for his mom for Christmas. Yeah. But like, he hasn't told anyone it, and really the movie hasn't told us why he cares about it either. I kept like looking at the Wikipedia summary to figure out why he cared about these shoes, but they're helping him out because apparently nobody in this town has $20, and they're helping him collect cans. And so at some point, Dorian, is that the character's name?
Dorian's the actor. He's just the teacher. I forget the teacher.
Yeah.
He plays Dalton, so it's close. Yeah.
Dalton, yes. That's Dalton. Right. And but while we're discoursing here, let me also say that I also thought it was funny that Rob Lowe's character's name was Rob.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you do with a child actor who can't remember his name.
Yes. Or Tony Danza.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I had my favorite line delivery where he's collecting cans and Dalton's helping him out. Dalton, for the viewers who somehow haven't seen Christmas Shoes, I assume Colin will leave a link to the YouTube version
Yeah, no one's taken that down. It's been up for years.
Yeah. Please at this point stop the video, watch the movie, and then come back to this time code. But when the kid's helping Dalton, or Dalton's helping the kid collect cans, he has no idea why, just that this kid's having a full-on, anxiety meltdown about it. And he says, "Hey, kid, why you need money so bad?" And the kid says, "I'm buying my mom Christmas shoes." And there's like the best delivery. He just pauses. I'm gonna try to recreate it. He goes, "Well, okay." Like, he has no response to that.
Like, well, that's the thing someone would do. Okay.
Right. So those are my notes on the cast and crew. We should probably get back to the plot summary.
Yes. So Rob Lowe plays a Hallmark movie lawyer, which means he talks about law stuff a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
I will say they did actually flesh out his case, and it seemed like he was actually doing something decent. So I'll give them that. So
here's the thing that's so weird, and this is going to be a chunk of the video is me talking about this. Can I get into it now?
Yeah, go for it.
Which is, before we move on, though, I want to point out that the character that we're talking about, Dalton, is played by a Black actor, and it's actually really nice that there was a POC character having such a central role in a Christmas movie in 2002.
Yeah, and then it wasn't part of his character. It was just, he's a mentor and a teacher. Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
He does kind of disappear, but like I don't know that that's necessarily because of his race. I think that just this is a poorly written movie, and he just his role was done.
Oh yeah, and he was objectively both in the writing and the acting the best character in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So here's the part. So I was making these like copious notes while I was doing this, and then I realized about as the movie was finishing, he's like, nobody's tuning into these to get like an honest tear down about the movie and like what works and what doesn't. So I apologize to everyone who was, expecting me to just snark on it the entire time. But the thing that works least about this movie is Rob Lowe's character. Yeah. Because Rob Lowe is ostensibly the protagonist, but nothing really happens to him. We don't really know if he's a good guy or not. We start off thinking he's a good guy because he's our point of view character. And just, we're kind of conditioned to believe if we follow this guy from the very beginning of a movie, not every movie, but movies like this is the person whose side we're supposed to be on. But then he's kind of a dick. Well, he starts out really nice. He's really nice to his daughter. Then he's a dick. And then we find out he's nice, but then he's working all the time. And I don't know, there's just nothing resolved about his character at all. And I know people, all my haters who have come over here from my fan hate subreddit are going to be making fun of me for saying that I don't like that a character is ambiguous, but that's not true, right? Like, I love ambiguous character traits. I think that'd be really awesome. Yeah. I don't get the sense that like we're supposed to feel ambiguous about Rob Lowe's character. I just think they had no idea what to do with him, and that they in every scene he's what he needs to be in the scene.
He's what the scene requires. Yeah, absolutely. Because he's a lawyer who works too much, which is every, dad, when are you coming home Christmas movie. But also he insists that his wife gets a job, which is sort of the reverse of your average unlikable protagonist.
Right.
Because usually they're insisting their wife stays home.
To the viewers, there's a big theme in this movie about how women don't want to work. Yeah. Or like, yes. Or once... And I thought, like, okay, well, that's a character choice for the wife. She wants to stay home with the mom. That's fine. But then she brings it up to like another woman. The one's like, ugh, like, why are you going to work? Why don't you want to not work? Which actually, you know what, I appreciate. That's Friday evening. I wish I could not work.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a weird thing. And so yeah, there's just, we never really get a sense of who Rob Lowe's character is ever. And that absolutely hamstrings the end of the film when he's supposed to be our kind of Scrooge-like protagonist, where he's supposed to have this kind of this eye-opening thing. So getting back to the plot, the movie begins with him waking up his daughter in a very sweet manner. It's actually kind of a charming scene.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, cool. He's a good guy. And then like the next scene, he's like such a dick to the woman who becomes the movie cancer victim. And it's like, wait, what is going on here? And it's like that. It ping pongs back and forth through the whole movie. And the reason he he was so sweet to his daughter at the beginning. This is 15 years in the past. We've had our framing where he's like, I remember some pretty famous Christmas shoes.
You're probably wondering how I got these Christmas shoes.
Yeah. It was 15 years ago. So he wakes up his daughter and he says, hey, honey, you're wonderful. You're incredible. You're a genius. And actually, one thing that I'm not 100% on this, but the thing that struck me when I was watching it is that he was praising her for qualities that wasn't beauty, which is always really nice to see in a movie or just in life. Yeah. A woman being praised for something other than her looks, right? Like he's like, you're a genius, you're a great singer. That's great. And she says, hey, you're going to miss my Christmas recital, aren't you? And he's like, no, I'm not. She goes, yes, you are. Yeah, no, I'm not. Well, viewers, you won't believe this. He misses the Christmas recital, or I guess the fall Christmas. The timeline of this recital. Movie, the timeline of this movie makes no sense, which we will talk about, I'm sure, as we get into the progression of the movie Cancer, and a funeral that happens 30 minutes after a body is found. Like
that's how those happen. Yeah.
So, but it's like I understand how cuts in movies work, but
yes,
but they're talking about Christmas in the first scene of the movie, and so. How long is the Christmas season in this movie? Because someone has a chance to get a terminal illness and die of it. There's a funeral, which is usually like a week after the death. But then I guess it starts in the fall because they go to this. There's a recital, and in the recital, there's like these incredibly unnerving scarecrows in the back. It is really really weird, which I guess they just threw out there to say, hey, look, it's fall.
Yeah.
I absolutely laughed so hard at how Rob Lowe missed. So, okay, you have a movie, you have a character. He's a workaholic, but he loves his daughter. He's promised he's not going to this recital. As a screenwriter, you got to put something in his way. He wants to do it. He doesn't want to be the bad guy. This movie doesn't do that. And there's no explanation at all. He just kind of arbitrarily doesn't go, which actually is pretty awesome. Like he's just like, what time is it? Screw it. I'm not going.
Obstacle to be added later.
Yeah. And so it's just so arbitrary. It's like, why didn't you go? And he's like, nah, I didn't want to. I'm a bunch of kids. But like, even that would be a good explanation. It's just like, he's like, honey, I tried. It's like, no, you didn't. You just like stayed at work. While we're talking about the recital, this is skipping ahead just a little bit, but not too much. There's all sorts of intersecting storylines. It's like Magnolia, but better.
I said it's like the Robert Altman of Christmas movies.
It really is. It really is. If Love Actually didn't exist, you would be absolutely dead on.
Yes.
And if only Love Actually did not exist. So the character Dalton that we've been talking about is next door neighbors and best friends with the mom. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. Rob Lowe's mom,
right?
Who's also, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say in the book, I wonder if they are romantically involved and TV did not want to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. I wasn't sure because they were definitely close, but it wasn't. Yeah. It didn't seem romantic.
Yeah, it almost felt like they were hinting at something that they felt they couldn't say, as if it were two men, like oh, they're best friends. It's like, oh, this African American or African Canadian guy, this black guy, and this white woman are best friends. They're completely non-sexual, non-romantic best friend relationship.
And he even had the throwaway line of, "Oh yeah, I had a wife once," which is how you would do it if it was two men.
I'm sorry to skip ahead so much, but there's this thing where we don't know anything about Dalton, and so it finally opens up to the kid. I'm making it sound like this is a great scene, great reveal. It's not. He's just like, yeah, I did have somebody. It was my wife. I've never told anyone that. And the kid has such a great comeback. Goes, well, why are you telling me now? Which I know is just like the screenwriter's way of like bridging that gap to the next point, but it really just sounded like the kid could not care less. Yes. It was just like, why are you telling me now?
Why do I care? I'm a kid.
Yeah. There's another great line like that. I'm not gonna get into it right now, but so But when we're first introduced to Dalton and his mom, the mom has the first line. So like the Rob Lowe's wife shows up and is talking to Rob Lowe's mom, and she's like, Rob Lowe's mom. Rob Lowe's mom is a really interesting collection of morphemes. Rob Lowe's mom. Rob Lowe's mom. Rob Lowe's mom is like, well, you know my son, and then she turns and has like a little quip with with Dalton. And for like a half second, I was like, are we expected to believe that in this movie Rob Lowe is biracial?
Yeah.
Like at least his parents, which would be such an amazing it feels like a very Rob Lowe thing.
And they would have kept saying, "Oh, he looks like his dad." Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but to get to our more serious point, I genuinely just thought it was his stepdad until it was revealed that he's just not even that.
No, he's not anything. He's just a teacher of a kid in the school.
Right. So now we gotta go back to a little bit earlier, where Rob Lowe's driving to work and a mom hits his car with a football, and he is a dick to her. So it's like, oh, okay, well maybe Rob Lowe's not a good guy to this super cute mom.
This is the Kimberly Williams character.
Okay, this is the Kimberly Williams character, and then he pulls off. And Kimberly Williams' character has a son and a husband, and they have this sort of cute scene. It's not really cute; it's supposed to be cute scene in their house, where the kid wants a puppy for Christmas, presumably, and they're like, "No, you can't get a puppy," and he's like, "Why not?" And the dad. And this is so much broader than anything else that happens in the movie. Yeah. The dad storms off and comes back holding a goldfish bowl full of dead fish. It's like, you kept the fish? What are you? Yeah.
I thought that, like, what is this, prop comedy now?
Right. And specifically, it's mentioned that they've been dead for 2 weeks. So this psychopath has kept dead fish in a tank for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is why you can't have fish. So
can you imagine how this went the next year, though? It's like, can we get a puppy? Brings in the mom.
Right. Does the kid get a puppy? He doesn't, right? Like, why does that not pay off?
No, because he can't keep his fish dies and his mom dies. He can't keep anything alive in the house.
Yeah. That's how the scene goes. The dad says, if you can keep your mom alive through Christmas, we'll think about giving you a puppy. What we're told, nothing about money in this movie makes any sense.
No. Not the slightest.
He can't have a puppy because they don't have enough money, which, okay, yes, puppies cost money. I mean, a puppy would be expensive for me. If I had to take it to the vet and get shots, etc. I see where they're coming from. But a puppy, just getting a puppy, not that expensive. Also, I wish I had as much money as this allegedly poor family had.
Yeah, I wrote their Hallmark movie poor.
Yeah, exactly. Their house is like 3 stories somewhere in Vancouver. This scene, though, and the scene with Rob Lowe beforehand talking to his daughter, is one of my favorite dumb things in all of pop culture media, which is how much time everyone has before having to go to work or school, where yes. They wake up, they have a nice breakfast, they're talking, they're finishing their homework. I think like the son has to finish his homework before he goes to school. It's like, what time is it? Yeah. Like, what time do these things open?
Does anyone have memory of doing that in real life?
Right. I mean, don't you just wake up at the last possible second and then just run out the door? I mean, even when you're a kid, it's not like you're waking up at 6 to, be to school at 8.
Family breakfast.
Yeah. And so my favorite version of this is Viggo Mortensen owns a breakfast diner in a History of Violence. Yeah. And I guess this breakfast diner opens at 11 a.m. because he has all the time in the world. It's like, do you not have guys getting there at 5? So similar to that, the dad of this poor family, which from now on we'll just refer to as the poor family, owns a mechanic shop. And again, it feels like he's strolling in around 10 o'clock. Which most mechanics open around 7, right? Because if you get a car there early,
when I have to go to the mechanic, it's like, I gotta get up at 7 in the morning, get this car over there. Yeah,
right. Yeah. So the dad shows up. The mechanic dad, the poor dad shows up.
I don't remember the character's name or the actor's name. So yeah.
Right. Hey, he's not a mechanic. He owns the whole garage.
Right. Garage dad.
Yeah. Again, owning a garage does not necessarily mean you're not poor. You know, I
Right.
mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure
that
there are
can
plenty
make a
of
lot of
struggling
money, and
garages, but
if the
okay.
mom doesn't have to work, they're doing okay.
Yeah, they're fine. So he talks to this guy. It's got to be like a cameo or something. He talks to this mechanic, terrible actor.
What's a cappuccino?
Yeah, he looks like Captain Kangaroo for the older people. He can't like I was like he's got to be like a DJ or something. Like I thought it was one of the car talk guys. And so there's this exchange I had to call out where the way they express that the garage is struggling is that there are no nice cars there. There are only like wrecks they have to work on, which okay, that's a good way of setting that up. But the dad says, poor dad says, yeah, this garage is full of heaps. And then he like hits the trunk or whatever. And he goes, get to work. And it's like, I want the other guy to be like, I was working. You walked up to me while I was working and started talking to me. Why am I in trouble? Like, I don't understand. This is around the point where I made a note that said, where is this movie going?
It's so many subplots.
Scenes of Rob Lowe, yeah, just being non-ambiguous but poorly written. The more I think about it, I wonder if that has something to do with Rob Lowe just not wanting to play a fully irredeemable character. I don't know.
I thought of that too. Like, is he just too naturally likable, or did he want it to be a certain way?
So, poor mom finds out that she's sick. So here's the thing that's really confusing about her movie Cancer is when poor dad's going to work, he's like very serious. He's like, have you heard from the doctor? She's like, no. So it's like, okay, well, she's very ill. You know, she's terminally ill. She's not. She thinks she has the flu at that point, which I don't understand that because over the course of the film, as you'll see, she gets sick and dies, you know, within weeks.
Right.
And it's like, why wasn't she just sick before the movie began? Why? Again, I know nobody's watching this for like an in-depth analysis of this movie, but this seems like such an easy fix because it seems so weird that she gets sick and drops dead over the course of what must be like 6 weeks at the most. I don't know.
Yeah, if we're starting at the harvest, it's like maybe 2 months. Yeah. And at the harvest concert, before we move on from that, they sing that great harvest song, America the Beautiful.
Yeah, the choices, all the public domain choices for these songs are so hilarious. You know, I wonder if it just occurred to me, I wonder if it was a harvest festival because as a Canadian film, they didn't want to do a Thanksgiving recital because I think this was a joint production where it would have been shown on CBC or something like that. I bet that's what that was. Because otherwise, then if it was Thanksgiving, the movie would have started in early October. Although the timeline, that implies a lot of thought on their part that I don't think is true.
This is the timeline that didn't age Rob Lowe for 17 years. So
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So the poor mom thinks she has the flu. And then at the recital, we actually see her go, oh, I got movie cancer. And then she goes out and again, at this point, I'm still like, in my head, I'm like, well, she's terminally ill. We know that. They did a really good job of being subtle and not, but that's not actually true. So there's the recital. The daughter does really well. Rob Lowe's daughter does really well. The mom films it all on a camcorder the size of a mini fridge.
And puts it on the TV that night in fantastic quality because that makes
sense. And just has it on for Rob Lowe to see it and feel guilty.
To walk in dramatically right during the solo.
Right, exactly.
Did she plan it like Kevin McAllister to start? He's coming.
Actually, it just occurred to me that camcorder might be their only concession to the film taking place in the mid-'80s. Because camcorders in the 2000s were smaller than that. They were still huge by our standards. But,
I was thinking, is this camcorder time? But if it was set in the 80s, that might be the one. Yeah,
the one thing they did. So Rob Lowe again missed the show for no reason. Around this point in the movie, I was expecting a corpse to show up. It felt like the beginning of a mystery. Like Rob Lowe was going to die, and everyone wanted him. So Rob Lowe gets home after having missed the show. As Colin mentioned, the camcorder's hooked up to the TV, showing the thing, which actually, that's how camcorders work. It's not that ridiculous that, it's not like they had to send the tape off to be developed.
Oh, no, I know.
Yeah, it is showing her performance for maximum drama. There has been this plot line, like we mentioned earlier, about Rob Lowe wanting Mrs. Rob Lowe to go back to work, to get a job at a farm. What are her qualifications? Like, has she been a stay-at-home mom for 15 years? And like suddenly she's getting a job at this pharmaceutical company?
And he gets her an interview and says, it's tomorrow.
Right.
They don't need to know anything about her. Just, she's married to Rob. Yeah. She must be good.
I don't think this was intentional, but that actually kind of makes sense, right? Like, Rob Lowe knows somebody, and it's like, sure, we'll hire her. He's our lawyer. Like, even if she's terrible, it helps. Believe me, in my experience in the corporate world, a lot of people get jobs that way. Do a favor for a client. Hey, would you hire my daughter? Sure.
Rob Lowe also said this.
My nephew.
This great line that lawyers say in movies: "I had a bunch of case law."
yes. So Rob Lowe sees that, and then we find out that Rob Lowe and Mrs. Rob Lowe have a lot of troubles in their marriage. Yeah. He is a TV lawyer. She wants to be a stay-at-home mom. She does not want to arbitrarily get a job that he just gave her, which is understandable. So he goes up to visit his daughter. And even though his daughter seemed very blasé about him missing this thing at the beginning of the movie, she's like, "You're going to miss it." And he's like, "I'm not." When he actually does miss it, she's very sad. Yeah. Rob Lowe walks in. She's watching a TV show. And he's like, "Hey, you want to talk?" She's like, "No, I'm watching a show." And he just turns it off. And it's like, "Hey, Dad, this is the past. I'm never going to see that show again. Can you please turn it back on?" It's not like I can pause it. So Rob Lowe is in trouble. He is in doo-doo because he missed this thing.
Is this when he gets the shoes, or is that not yet? I forget when.
We probably should. In this discussion of the movie, the Christmas
shoes.
We probably should talk about the Christmas shoes. Although why they play very little role. So truck turns the corner. Does not look like a delivery truck. Looks like a Brinks truck. I don't know why.
I thought it was like a U-Haul. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a U-Haul turns the corner, a pair of shoes fly out the back. Prequel. We need to do a prequel that sets up what those shoes
it's like a mad world, but they all want the shoes, so they're all
right. So these shoes fall out, and Rob Lowe picks them up, and he's like, hey, like, he does a lot of yelling at cars in this movie. So like the train goes,
hey, back in the truck, hear me.
Hey, your shoes. Doesn't work out. So he takes the shoes. They're very ugly. They're not attractive shoes. They're Christmas shoes. I'm not going to slight a pair of shoes for being ugly. They're heartwarming. Speaking of, I have my winter sweater on for this discussion. Rob Lowe continues being a dick to people and also being nice to people.
Yeah, but he takes the shoes to the store that's labeled on them, and they play this like an act of kindness.
Right.
But it's in the same town.
Right. Yeah. It's like, hey, I found these shoes, and he's like, "Where whole thing?" This kindly old man, and Colin, I'm sure you had the same experience I did. This kindly old man in front of his store. What were you imagining through those doors of that store?
Not
like two shelves and like a soda jerk machine. And
I bought the store back in 1903.
Right. The owner is like 103 years old. He has nothing in both scenes he's in. He's just hanging out on the street, like lighting up. Later, when we go into this store, it's like a full-fledged like Macy's department store.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Did you think this guy's like the Colonel Sanders? They're just making the mascot now.
Right. Yeah. It's like a full-on department store. But anyway, he shows up. Hey, old man, I found these Christmas shoes. He's like, well, that doesn't look like anything we sell, but I'll take them. Basically steals these shoes and sells them.
Yeah.
But we go to the house, the poor people's house, the poor people's shack, three-story colonial shack. And a doctor very realistically shows up doing a house call, and he says, "I'm sorry, poor woman, you have movie cancer." You're going to stay pretty, but then you're going to die in like 2 weeks. And she is understandably upset. The least believable doctor delivery, he's like, listen, it's bad news. You're going to die. And she's like, I thought I had the flu. And he's like, nope, death.
Cake or death. Yeah.
Right. And so the kid, the kid who wants the puppy overhears this conversation. Needless to say, he's freaked. His mom's going to die. Again, it should have been set up that she was dying and the kid just didn't know, and they overheard a conversation about it. Whatever. Then there's some more about the evils of working mothers, apparently.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
When she talks to Rob Lowe's wife.
Yeah. So again, if it was just a character choice for the mom to be like, hey, I really love being a stay-at-home mom. I'm great at it. I never liked being in the corporate world. Like, that's cool. But like, it feels like the movie itself is against working moms.
But in this case, they both want to be the choir director, as if choir director of an elementary school is the passion of all women.
Right. And so, okay, so that's where we actually are in the movie. Dalton is the music teacher. Dalton is the black neighbor.
Right.
I know that to all the viewers watching, I know that the preferred nomenclature these days is black, capital B black even, versus African American, especially since the actor's Canadian. But yeah, it feels weird for me to say the black neighbor. It feels very dehumanizing to me because of my age. So I apologize if I slip back into saying African American. But the neighbor is the music teacher, Dalton. And the poor mom is his assistant, a volunteer assistant. Right. Like, she doesn't even make, maybe whatever. Maybe they have a little more money if she was not volunteering all day in the music.
Well, before she finds out she has movie cancer, she said she's going to go back to school for something.
Yeah, for music. That's the dream. Music, right. And so she bonds with Rob Lowe's wife, who also has been wanting to be a musician. And it's so funny. There's this really weird, awkward conversation where they talk about being music majors in a way I've never heard two people ever talk about being music majors. No. It's like they're talking about like novelists, like, oh, in my dreams, I'm a novelist. It's like, no, in my dreams, I'm a music major. Okay.
Well, they say at one point she changed from a music major to please her husband. It's like, what? Yeah. I don't date any music majors in this house.
Yeah. So the mom, the poor mom and Rob Lowe's wife connect. They actually have the best chemistry of anyone on the show or in this movie, which makes me think of another alternate film that would have been a lot better if those two had left both of them and movie cancer behind. And so they have a meet cute. I mean, it is really like a meet cute. Like, it really feels like a romance. And then in the very next scene, she turns to the mom, Rob Lowe's wife, and is like, listen, I got the movie cancer, something fierce. I am going to croak by the end of this movie. I need you to take over this classroom and help have a great Christmas recital, which, by the way, P.S. is happening at like 8 p.m. on Christmas
Eve.
So I hope you and your family don't have any plans, because it is definitely happening and your holidays are ruined.
And the choir won the right to perform at the Christmas tree lighting, which, question, right. Who were they competing against?
Yeah, it was like 7
the senior
houses.
Citizens.
Yeah, right. The mom, I keep saying that, Rob Lowe's wife. I do also feel bad about referring to her as Rob Lowe's wife, but that's not me being sexist.
That's her character in the movie.
Yeah, her character in the movie is Rob Lowe's wife. So Rob Lowe's wife says, I have a thing I have to do, which is to go be handed a job for free at a pharmaceutical company. I thought the name they were saying was Bowser Pharmaceutical, like the Nintendo character Bowser. So she's like, I can't. And then she sees the kids and she hears them singing and she's like, by God, by golly, by gum, I'm going to do it. Screw you, Rob Lowe, who I hate. And then we find out, now keep in mind, as far as the movie is telling us, poor dying mom found out last night she was dying. They already have beepers to alert them when she could get a heart donor. Like they're already talking about heart donors. Like imagine this, Colin. It's what time is it? It's as we record this, it's 10:30 on Friday night. Imagine tomorrow, like right now, you feel okay. And now I tell you you're dying. And this and tomorrow afternoon, around no later than like 2 o'clock, since it's in elementary school, you've already acclimated to the fact that you're dying and that you have a beeper to tell you when a heart donor, you're going to have to get a heart transplant. Yeah. And also all this information was conveyed to her at her house when a doctor like dropped by.
Okay. He just drops by to say, hey, you're dying. Okay.
Right. So they're like, hey, listen, if I get beeped to get a new heart, which in this movie is super easy.
Yeah.
I am going to, you need to take Dalton to his not Dalton, the kid, Rob. What's the kid's name? Nathan? I don't know. We'll
that's as good as any.
Yeah. You have to take Dayton, my son, who knows Nathan, I'm dying, but I don't know is dying. You're going to have to take him to, like the grandmothers or, and I don't know. So, and Dalton's like, no, he's going to hang out with me. And it's like, well, you'd hope that you would offer, like they treat it like, oh my God, thank you so much. It's like, well, you'd hope that this guy who's your friend would like hang on to your kid while you're getting a literal heart transplant.
Yeah. And he also says, I have a neighbor who's an old lady. I'd love to pawn him off on her. It's like, oh.
Yeah. Right. Then Amy Mann starts playing, just like in Magnolia.
Yeah.
And we find out that that old lady is actually Roblo's
mother.
Roblo's mom. Does poor mom and Roblo's wife ever actually find out that they know each other through that? Like, does I don't think poor mom is ever like, oh yeah, I know your husband. I threw a
no one makes any connections that they know each other, even though they all apparently have kids in the same school.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And Roblo also, this isn't an important scene, so we can just talk about it. Roblo also gets his car worked on by poor dad.
Oh yeah.
For no reason except to connect literally every character in this movie.
Right. Which is also not commented on, which like, what is the purpose of bringing all these characters together if he can't comment on them? Especially because he's surprised he's a dick to the mechanic.
Yeah.
Who's poor dad. And then again, all of this adds up to the most important scene in the whole movie, which is him being so moved by this child needing money for Christmas shoes that it crashes down on him. None of that happens because he's not connected to any of this.
He just thinks it's a random kid. It could have been two completely separate stories the whole time, and he gives the money to a random kid.
Right. So then we're back in the classroom. The mom, the poor mom, is kind of feeling not great trying to teach these kids. The kids are loud. It's sort of like avant-garde theater in the 70s. She's like, oh my God, what's going on? No, not at all. Because actually what's really funny is the kids, we're supposed to believe the kids are like causing a ruckus, but because they're Canadian, they're just kind of like a little loud. They're like politely loud. They're just like talking. And she's like, stop, my movie cancer.
This is the 80s. Could you say it was a quiet riot?
Oh, very good. Very good. So she gets beeped. She gets beeped. And they already have a heart for her, which again, this is like 2 days after she found out. I mean, I don't know. Again, the timeline makes zero sense. I don't know. So Charity has a heart, and they for no reason show us a close up of the beeper. Like she holds it up and you see the like 555 number. Look, they're beeping us. We have a heart. So, they go to the hospital very leisurely in a very casual way. They put her in a hospital gown. They wheel her off.
And the family doctor who makes house calls is also performing the surgery.
Yeah, right. The guy who just dropped by to say, hey, FYI, you're going to croak, is leading the surgery. So anyway, he comes in. So, well, there's this other great exchange where she wakes up, poor mom wakes up, and she's groggy. And she says, Jack, why didn't they do the procedure? Which actually shows a pretty good level of awareness on her part to like wake up from anesthetic and realize you don't have a new heart.
Yeah.
But anyway, she wakes up. It's this great exchange because she says, Jack, why didn't they do the procedure? And the husband says in this completely deadpan voice, I don't know. So there's this great scene where they're wheeling her down to get a new heart installed. And she's like, who's the donor? And they're like, a teenager. And she's like, her poor, or his poor, making a gender assumption. Nice, poor mom.
You deserve this now.
It's like his poor mom. It's like, we get it. She's a saint. Okay. Poor mom's completely saintly. It was the screenwriter's mom in his memory. And so anyway, so she wakes up. They didn't do the heart transplant because the heart had hepatitis. I'm sorry.
They didn't check this before?
Right. The heart had hepatitis. You can't do, and like poor mom does not, to her credit, does not say, I'll take hepatitis. It's fine. Put hepatitis in me. If it means if I'm going to be alive in 15 years with hepatitis, I'll do that in exchange for dying before Santa comes. Okay, so the kid, this weird little freak, is completely obsessed with feet and shoes now at this point. I actually had to rewind to figure out why I cared so much about shoes. So apparently, when poor mom and poor dad are about to go get her heart, she says, before we were married, we loved to dance. That's it. That's what kicks off this whole thing.
Well, there is a scene early in the movie when they're with the teacher and he's reading a book about shoes, and she loves it because she had shoes as a little girl.
Oh, okay. Well, why weren't we shown this, that she loves to dance? Maybe instead of being a music major, she was a dance major.
Yeah.
And she just always loves to dance. And one day I'll have some nice shoes that I can dance in, and then you'll really see something, whatever. Or she's really poor. She had to drop out of school because she couldn't afford all the shoes that a ballerina needs, when she was younger.
Show them dancing once. Just once, show them dancing. And she's embarrassed because she has like these ratty house slippers because she's so very poor. Yes.
Anyway, completely not set up well. Anyway, this kid gets a total shoe fetish. He's going nuts. So he goes to this thing that we thought was a general store, but it's actually like this Main Street department store, which, by the way, there is no way the store is still open. This store has been closed probably 20 years by this point.
This is the store they're usually trying to save in the Hallmark movie.
Right, exactly. It's like, well, you can't close down Shinnerman's. All my great Christmases were there. We'd go and we'd see Santa. Yeah, this thing this thing got destroyed by Amazon when Amazon was still selling books. It's just this dumpy little thing. But apparently we find out
just walked in, snapped his fingers out.
Yeah, right. Anyway, so the kid goes, he's looking all around. He cannot find shoes. He sees like these boots, they're not right. He sees like ballet flats, they're not right. He sees all these shoes that don't look anything at all like shoes from the 80s. Finally, he finds these fugly shoes that Rob Lowe found. They got kicked out of the back of a U-Haul in disgust. The previous owners was like, these do not spark joy. They just kicked them right out the back.
Had it wearing them. She was done.
Exactly. And so the kid's like, holy crap, these are the shoes I gotta get for my mom. Why isn't the movie about the kid? Why is Rob Lowe even involved? Why isn't the whole movie about the kid trying to get these shoes? Anyway, I did a little math here. $20 is how much the shoes cost. That's in 2002. Well, actually, we'd have to adjust now. 1985. $20. That was actually $850. So it makes sense. The kid cannot afford the shoes. Kid has a crazy Canadian accent. He's like, $20? What? So at no point does this kid like say to his dad, okay, if they had like a throwaway line. Well, they did. He goes to his dad and he says, so I'm sorry. I feel like cinema sins. I'm pointing out things that actually the movie had done. I'm like, why didn't the movie do this? Well, they did do it. So
no one said roll credits when we named the line about the Christmas shoes. So.
Right. So he goes to his dad and he's like, Dad, listen, Dad, I love women's shoes. I need a pair of, no, he doesn't say that. If he had said that, maybe the dad would have understood. But for no reason that makes sense, he goes to his dad and he goes, Dad, I need $20. And the dad's like, no, you can't have 20, and he's struggling, but he says, he's like, you cannot have $20, like, because he's Canadian, but he's figured it out. By the way, this dad looks like somebody was doing like a bust, like a clay bust of like a soldier, and then just got bored like halfway through. This guy's like to get this like this oddly angled lump of a head.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like a salamander. Anyway, he's like no.
G.I. Joe Michael Shannon.
At no point does the kid say, no, I want to buy my mom a Christmas gift. And by the way, when I'm in med school, I'm never visiting you. At no point does the kid say, no, I want to buy a Christmas gift. Please give me $20. Instead, the dad thinks he wants to get a puppy. Like this kid's going to run out with $20 and buy a puppy.
Give me your finest puppy.
Yeah, give me five. I want them here and I want them now. So the kid says a curse. He tells his dad to fuck off, and he leaves. I was really surprised that was in this movie, especially since it was on CBS. He leaves, and then the dad is talking to Rob Lowe, who is mad that the car costs so much. Like, why did fixing this car? Why did it cost so much? And he's like, hey man, it's an expensive car. He's like, you gotta, whatever. And so Rob Lowe is drinking a can of soda or pop. They probably call it pop where they are. And he crushes it, throws it in the trash. He says, I think probably the meanest thing I've ever heard in a Christmas film. He says, what is it? With prices like this, no wonder you're broke. And then he leaves. It's like, what the hell?
How does he even know they're broke?
Right, exactly. You just assume. Like most girl, like what kind of garage are you going to that like radiates wealth? When you could, anyway. Like I go to a garage that I know does really well because they are a beloved institution in my university town, and it looks like it is in a garbage dump because it's a garage. Like, why would it? Anyway, whatever. He says this incredibly cutting thing. The dad just eats it right in front of him, like right in front of his own son. He says it to him in front of his son. He's like, listen, you're poor, you're trash, you come from trash, your son is trash, you'll always be trash. Your wife has a big hunk of trash where her heart should be. I'm out of here. Rob Lowe leaves. The dad turns completely eviscerated. He knows he's completely lost the love of and respect of his son forever. And he picks up the can of pop, sody, and he's like, well, at least we got a nickel. Because back in the day, so let me explain to our younger viewers, you used to be able, instead of just taking the can that you finished and throwing it into a creek, you could, like we do now, you could take them and they'd give you a nickel. They'd give you you could exchange it for money to get more Coke. It was great. So he's like, at least we got a nickel. And then the kid's like, that's genius. That's what I'm going to do. And the dad says, what? And the son doesn't say anything. He doesn't say, well, I'm trying to buy my mom some Christmas shoes. And he just runs out. Gotta go collect cans. Now.
You know who else used this plan?
Who?
Newman on Seinfeld.
This is a prequel. This is the Newman prequel.
But they have to go to Michigan because it's 10 cents in Michigan. So they drive an 18-wheeler full of cans to Michigan.
It's really funny. Yeah. This is sort of an ongoing thing. Nobody in this town has $20, or the kid has no concept of 20, but $20 is not that much. Then we have a scene where Rob Lowe, we have a scene in an entirely different movie where Rob Lowe is a crusading environmentalist lawyer.
And they throw in the Sorkin walk and talk.
Yeah. Right. Maybe Sorkin just did this. They couldn't let Rob Lowe go. They were filming West Wing. All those guys are like senators. So Rob Lowe goes to show up to meet with these farmers. Another message of this movie is environmentalists have an agenda because they're run by corporations. So Rob Lowe is a lawyer and he meets with these farmers and they walk and talk about how this corporation is trying to steal their land. And we find out Rob Lowe is actually a good lawyer. He cares. Now, this actually could be kind of an interesting plot point for Rob Lowe. Like if it was built out better, what if someone who's actually genuinely doing good in the world was kind of a dick? I feel like this was like a Fox TV show that Rob Lowe would have starred in. Was that what The Ringer is about? I don't know.
Because I even thought like, oh, that's an interesting nuance you could work with, but they don't. Like, oh, he's he's a jerk, but when he's at work all the time, he's actually doing something important for the world.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Except it's not in this movie. It's not interesting at all. Then we have probably the most misplaced scene in the movie. So the little kid, the poor kid, I thought this was pretty cute. He's decorating his mom's hospital bed, but not, oh, you're like, okay, great. Well, that makes sense. She should be in a hospital since clearly she's about to get a heart transplant. It must be critical. She must be very ill. It's true. She's very ill. She can barely talk. She's not in a hospital. She's in their living room, and she remains in their living room through the rest of the film. I was a man, so I get that that's like convenient for the shooting, for the shooting of the film to have her there kind of in the middle of things. But I feel like even if we assume that the time, like it feels like she's been sick 2 days, but let's say the timeline of the film, she's been sick a month. I really don't think she'd have a hospital bed in her living. Like if she's been sick a month and everyone, as far as we know, is telling her, look, you're going to die in a couple of weeks, she'd be in a hospital, right?
Well, I mean, unless she's just at the point where she's already given up and she's in hospice.
Right. Which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
So then we have this incredibly misplaced scene where the boy has decorated her hospital bed. She's like, I zoned out pretty, Colin, I'm not gonna lie, I zoned out pretty hard during this, but basically she thinks she's telling the poor boy that she is going to die because she thinks he doesn't know, but he does know. He overheard, which again, if this scene is just her telling him, why have him over here, whatever. And he's like, you look like an angel or something. And she's like, well, I'll be seeing plenty of angels soon because I'm dying. And viewers, I know you think that that's like an exaggeration. That is basically exactly how it goes. I'm going to be hanging out with lots of angels soon because mama is going to heaven. Kid's upset. My note here about this scene is just absolutely deadly. It grinds the movie to a halt. It is so overblown. The kid's a terrible actor. And I think worst of all, I mean, it's not like we turn into these movies to see great performances, but the thing that's so bad about this scene is why is it here? Why is it? It's like, I actually picked up my remote. I was like, is the movie over? Because this feels like the scene that happens when the mom's dead. All the emotions are played, blown out. Mm-hmm. They could have taken it down quite a bit. It would have worked. So anyway, takeaway from this scene is the boy knows the mom's dying. And I'm saying this as though it has any relevance on the plot. It does not.
I think it's just so he can say, so in case she meets Jesus, I want her to be happy. So she can talk about angels. Because in the song, it's like, she's going to meet Jesus. That's the only thing that scene's in there for.
Next morning, Dalton, the neighbor, Rob Lowe's mom's neighbor, is leaving. At some point before that, actually, we saw Dalton loading like a giant garbage can or garbage bag, a giant industrial garbage bag full of cans into his trunk. I should have mentioned that at some point, since that actually is relevant to the plot, unlike anything else we've been talking about.
Yeah.
But in this
scene, actually furthers the plot in a positive way, which is rare in this movie.
Right. So at this point, he's getting into his car and he looks over and Rob Lowe's mom has left the Christmas lights on all night. Okay. Left the Christmas lights on and Dalton freaks. This is a disaster. He goes absolutely bug fuck about these lights. Hey, knock, knock, knock. You left your lights on. You left your lights on. He's like, your power bill is going to be through the roof, which actually, those lights in the 80s, probably. They weren't LEDs. They probably were about $100 if you left them on all night. Knock, 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 knock. She doesn't answer the door. He only knocks like once and then he keys in. It's like, what? Maybe she's in the shower, bud. What are you doing here? Just walking into this house?
I feel like she wouldn't care.
Right. Yeah. Walks in. There's the Christmas tree. Of course, that happens by a Christmas tree. Yeah. There's a chair. The mom is slumped over in the chair, completely plastered, absolutely drunk off her ass. No, she's dead. She's dead, actually.
Did she like decide, well, better get in my dying chair? Because why is she not in bed?
Yeah. My picturesque dying chair. Dalton walks in. Her bowels have released because she died. It's a total mess. It's super realistic. I cannot believe her hands, claws, teeth retracted. Awful scene. None of that actually happened. She's just peaceful and beautiful. Before this scene, another thing that actually has plot relevance is she is concerned about her son, Rob. Actually, I think this is when she dies. She writes him a letter
Yes.
and puts it in a box, but we never actually find out why it's in a box instead of an envelope. And Rob Lowe gets this envelope or this box when he's at work, and they're like, "Oh, this came from your mom." He's like, "Whatever, don't care," and just like throws it on the shelf. Anyway, mom's dead, completely dead. We know what she died of: dead mom disease.
Yeah, they didn't even give her a condition. She didn't even
Right.
have McGregor's disease or whatever.
Presumably, she died of heart disease as well as the one. And maybe maybe that's another story. Maybe there's maybe Rob Lowe's on the wrong side, and there is something in the soil that's causing people to develop heart disease.
Yeah, but also if this is like 2 days after. Why is it off topic? Why is Kimberly Williams not looking for another heart? They found one in 2 days.
Yeah, you know, part of this didn't occur to me at the time, but there's another twist, right? Is like, mom's dead. Hey, a heart just became free.
Yeah.
Try to give it to Kimberly Williams. I don't know. Anyway,
they said she had a rare blood type, which is how they wrote it off. But how do they find one in 2 days?
Right. And also, everyone who needs a heart or kidney is just giving both middle fingers at this movie because, you're on those lists for years and then you just die.
Yeah.
There's a funeral. The very next scene, the mom's dead. Then there's a funeral. And again, what's the time frame in this movie? Clearly a week must have passed at this point.
Sure.
There's no concept of the passage of time. I don't need to see like October 26th on screen, but just some sort of thing like time is moving. Here's another question, and it might sound nitpicky. What was the point of the mom dying? It doesn't affect the movie in any way.
No, it has nothing. It's just so they can meet at the gravestone at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. Because I guess in this universe, they bury people in chronological order.
So we never see Rob Lowe grieving for his poor mom having died. We don't get a single scene of him grieving. How crazy is that?
Yeah. He's our hero.
Right. So there's that. And so now we cut to Dalton and Nathan, I guess we decided his name was.
Yeah, it is Nathan, yeah.
And the most realistic scene in the entire movie, where Dalton and the kid are walking down. They're in front of the only outdoor set they have, which is this this general store, department store thing. And Dalton sees the big tree that the old man was putting up. And he says, "Well, will you look at that? Ain't that the prettiest Christmas tree I ever seen?" And this is what makes it so realistic. This kid just says nothing, completely ignores him. So the kid says, "Holy shit. Oh, I'm sorry, Dalton. Holy fudge, a can." And he runs over and he gets the can. Then as soon as he gets that can, he sees another can. Right. Then I'm thinking to you, like, you don't understand the movie. Like, you got me, Colin. You staying with me on this one?
It's a really complicated plot, surprisingly.
Then they follow these cans down the street, turn the corner to an alley.
Yeah.
And in the alley is all those cans that Dalton was putting in his trunk. He littered, essentially. He essentially
this is very anti-environment, apparently.
Yeah. He put, and it's not like 50 cans, it's like 500 cans.
Because if he gets $15 by the end, that's gotta be 300 cans he gets.
And then there's that great scene I love so much where Dalton says, "Well, why do you need all this money, son?" And he says, "I'm gonna buy my mom some Christmas shoes." Okay. That's it. So then we get even more scenes of Rob Lowe being an absolute dick to his assistant at this point. At this point, I'm waiting for 3 ghosts to show up. It's like, okay, I guess this movie is like a Scrooge thing. It's not, by the way.
Yeah. I'm going to show you your past, Rob Lowe. Oh, that's probably not good.
All right, now viewers, listen, we're in the home stretch here. We're like in the last 10 minutes of the movie. So don't worry, please don't get upset with us.
It's like with Rudolph, we're almost at the point where the song happens.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a scene with the dad and the poor dad, poor mom, where it's Christmas Eve. Okay, guys, that's the other important thing. It's Christmas Eve. They have this emotional moment that maybe in a different film would have been actually kind of emotional. but they're just talking about how she's going to be dead by dawn, and she's like, I would like one more thing, can we dance one more time? So he unhooks her IV and he picks her up, and they dance, and puts her back down.
Then he drops her and she dies of something completely
she dies on the spot, and then the rest of the movie is him trying to cover up the homicide from an increasingly suspicious police detective.
One more thing.
Right. So then we go to the department store. The kid has cashed in his cans. He's gotten $15.
Yeah. And some pennies.
It's dark. It's full on dark.
It's Christmas Eve again, and Santa is in the store.
Yes. Yeah. Christmas Eve, and Santa's in the store again, taking orders for what? I don't know. Kids are on his lap though. I guess they're trying to get in some last minute, like,
just one more thing, Santa.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, well, I see a Nintendo under the tree, so a box that could be a Nintendo. So let me try to get some shoes while we're here. Or let me try to get some a Trapper Keeper.
And as someone who has worked in retail, no hero of any movie, I can never sympathize with someone shopping at 9 o'clock on Christmas Eve. Sorry, that is not a hero.
Yeah,
any kind.
The store's packed.
Yeah.
And the shoppers completely feral.
Yeah.
The only person who works there at the store, the old man, is outside again. The only employee also feral.
Yes.
Understandably,
absolute jerk. Understandable to a point.
Yeah. So Rob Lowe shows up. He's forgotten to Christmas shop because he's a putz. He's a bad guy. Yeah. He's just going around the store. He's like shopping at like that one aisle at Aldi. He's like, no, a panda bear. Maybe my fully grown adult daughter would like this panda bear. Can't find stuff. He's asking. So there was supposed to be a doll, a talking doll. How old is the daughter in this movie? The actress
15.
Like, yeah, she's like a teenager. Like she's clearly, I'm not trying to be skeezy, but she's clearly like going through puberty. She does not want a talking doll.
No.
Anyway, here's another line, and I want to talk about the locked door too, which is also an interesting scene. But he goes up to the only clerk. Now think, if you watch Gilmore Girls, think Sean Gunn's character, Clark. I don't remember. Anyway,
it was kind of someone who's like they kind of were annoyed with a gay person once in real life, so they wrote this character.
Yes, there's a very strong feeling of, I mean, he doesn't come out,
right? Literally
doesn't come out, but like he doesn't come out and say he's gay, but like it has a very, he's a little swishy,
queer coded.
But he's another character who changes scene to scene. Sometimes he's just indifferent, and then sometimes he's like a full-on asshole, as we'll see in a second. Rob Lowe comes up and he's like, "Oh, you were holding this doll for me," and he's like, "No, we were holding it, but you didn't get here in time, so we sold it." And he's like, "You could try this other store, but I've heard they're out." And it's like, okay, wait, let's unpack this. There's a rival department store in this town of like 7 houses that's also open at like 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve. And through the grapevine, you've heard that this one specific doll is also sold out over there. Okay.
I like to think this guy was catty enough that he called the other store just to confirm that, so he could tell Rob Lowe all of that.
Yeah. Like, no, we got 10 of them. He's like, look, whatever you do when Rob Lowe shows up, do not sell him. Please just put him under the counter for me. And that brotherhood, that fraternity of retail, they're like, absolutely, whatever you need. There's a scene before that I can't decide if I like or not. It just seems to come out of nowhere, where the kid is running up to the department store. He's got to get the shoes. No, it's locked. No. The kid's like, again, lots of profanity in this movie. He's like, fuck, god damn it, fuck, bullshit. And so Rob Lowe comes up, and it's framed like he's just walking by, but he's not. He's trying to get in the store. Like he stops. He's like, what's going on? It's like, well, no, you were trying to get in the store. He starts knocking. Hey, whoa. Now keep in mind, it's like 9 o'clock on Christmas Eve, and
they want to get home and eat. Yeah,
right. But then a woman dressed up as an elf opens the door. She goes, "Sorry, sometimes it locks by itself." And I guess it's supposed to be funny, but like, it's like I could see that actually legitimately being a funny scene if it was shot completely differently from the way this one was. I feel
Yeah.
like if they really amped up that emotion, you know, and it was like really over the top.
Like he's checking his watch and
Right. And so Rob Lowe comes in, he says something really mean to her. I can't remember what it is. And she's just like, makes this very relatable face if you worked retail, like, holy shit, I cannot
He says
wait.
something about like, don't you have some toys to make or something? It's like,
Yeah. And she's like, oh my God, it's 9 o'clock on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
You're on my territory here.
Yeah.
So viewers, if you're right, the kid is going absolutely insane. He's out of his mind. He's looking for these shoes, can't find them anywhere. Rob Lowe also is kind of indifferently looking for gifts for his kid, just kind of grabbing stuff at random. But the kid can't find the shoes. Where are the shoes? I can't find them. I'm gonna just tear this place down with my bare hands. He's so upset.
He gets a matchbook out and everything.
He does. He's actually actively lighting it on fire. Yeah. And then I don't know what happened. I don't know how it was framed. Rob Lowe like kicks a box and the shoes fall out. And he's like, oh my God, my shoes. Grabs the shoes, goes up to check out, and he has like all of these bills and like change and stuff. Rob Lowe's right behind him in line. Yeah. And the shoes are $20. They're $19.95. Tax does not exist in this fictional Boston that they live in. It's $19.95. Yeah. And the kid's like, isn't that what I got? Or isn't that what I got? And the clerk, who's now has to be a huge asshole, he's like, did I stutter? And again,
he actually says, did I stutter?
Yeah, that's not a joke. He's like, he goes from like a 4 to a 9, like to a kid who's having like an anxiety attack about these ugly ballet flats he wants. Yeah. It's like, did I stutter? And so, okay, so this is, I don't want to deep dive too much into this. This is the turning point of the film. This is when Rob Lowe learns something and becomes someone. None of it is set up. None of it makes any sense whatsoever. In the real world, here's what happens. He's like $5 short. The kid is like really upset. Rob Lowe sees the kid being upset and is like, look, here's $5 here's $5. Just give the kid his shoes, you fucking creep. And then
or even the cashier pays for it. Like, really?
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like, who cares? Like, literally last week, a store was about to close. I was there like right at like 10:59. I always feel really bad for the cashiers. And there was a woman behind me, actually another employee of the store. And the cashier scanned all mine, and then she grabbed a 2-liter of Diet Coke, which is like $2, and scans it. And I'm like, oh, sorry, that's actually hers. And she's like, oh, let me cancel it. And she's like, I was like, hey, you know what? I'll just buy her the Diet Coke. Just give it back. I wasn't even being, I was being nice, but it's also like, who cares? It's $2. You know, it's
$2.
It's Christmas. There's $2. It's the same thing. It's $5. This whole scene is so ridiculously dragged out.
Yeah, and the dramatic music and everything. Again, for a guy giving a kid $5.
Yeah, guy giving a kid $5. Again, and it's not even that there's one thing wrong with this scene. Everything is wrong with this scene because nothing makes sense. Because Rob Lowe, this is the central problem of the film, which is, why did Rob Lowe learn anything from this? This isn't a teachable moment for him. He doesn't learn to like appreciate what he has or that other people have feelings. He just, all he learned is that sometimes kids don't understand money. And like, sometimes cashiers are jerks.
Yeah.
It gives them $5. That's it. That's the whole thing. It's, I don't say this lightly. The film is a failure because of that.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's the hook of the song. Imagine if in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, they did the whole run around for the first 40 minutes. And then at the end of the 10 minutes, it's like, hey, Rudolph, want to fly? Yeah, all right.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Guess we'll go do that.
That was kind of the main hook of the special.
It is really bizarre that they didn't get that right, or they didn't try to get it right, because it doesn't feel like they went for something and failed. It feels like they didn't recognize that was the turning point of the again, it's like to use another version of your example, it's like if A Christmas Story ended with Scrooge waking up and they'll be like, hey, A Christmas Carol, I'm sorry. Christmas Carol is Scrooge waking up and something like, hey, you wanna send Cratchit some food? He's like, yeah, sure, let's do that. So anyway, Rob Lowe gives a $5, gives a Mickey Finn to the cashier. and then is like in tears, like, oh my God, I somehow learned a lesson from this. I gotta get to my daughter. I gotta get to this Christmas concert where they whipped these old people out for the quote unquote privilege. You know what I think? If it was another school, I bet the other school threw it so they wouldn't have to like go caroling on
Do it on
Eve.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah. The parents were like, I swear to Christ, if you win, you are grounded all of January. These kids went out, they were doing the puberty special, like,
He runs by the choir, and what song are they singing?
what song is
The Christmas Shoes.
Oh, the Christmas Shoes, yes, right.
So in universe, they are singing a song about what just happened.
Yes.
But I'll take this one step farther. They are singing a song about their own choir director dying.
Yeah. Oh, and in fact, they're like a Greek chorus because it hasn't happened yet. Like the end of the song hasn't happened yet. So he goes over and he goes over, he reunites with his wife, and he's like, hey, listen, I've been a huge jerk. I'm so sorry that I made you get a job or made you think about getting a job.
Sorry for believing in women in the workforce, honey.
Right. This concert seems incredible. He says, I have this note here. He says, do you know how much I love you? And my note is, do we? Because we don't. Like, why would we believe?
Well, for that, she says, what happened? He says, well, I met a boy. Like, whoa.
Yeah, I met a boy and I gave him $5. So this concert's happening again. The parents, I'm sure, loved the idea of a Christmas on Christmas Eve, Christmas concert on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
A farmer comes up and says, hey, your husband is amazing. He's fighting for us. He's a good dude. He's helping us shut down those environmentalists. And the wife's like, maybe Rob Lowe is actually Rob High, like high on virtues and morality. Then we get to the climax, well, I guess the post-climax of the song, where the kid comes over and he's like, Mom, I know you've got an appointment to die in a few minutes.
Jesus is expecting you.
And really, she's like on the brink of death, like a full 4 days after she was diagnosed. He's like, look, I got you these shoes. They're kick ass. Check them out. And she's like, honey, I love them. They're the best. Why did you get me shoes? And he said, I want you to have nice shoes when you're dancing for Jesus or dancing with the angels. Like, Jesus is never mentioned in these movies. When you're dancing, with the angels. And Colin, I'm going to tell you that in spite of myself, I got 6% choked up at that. Like I wasn't anywhere close to crying or anything, but like my nervous system, not my brain, but like my involuntary nervous system, 6% was like, okay, that's pretty good. That's actually pretty, that's an emotional scene. I had my heart skipped a little beat, and actually describing it just now, it happened again. My point, viewers, is I have emotional problems. I should probably be in therapy because that scene, I assume the same did not happen to you. You did not feel any percentage moved by that.
No, the only thing it is that actually moved me was I thought there were some moments with Dalton that I thought it's like, oh, he seems like a really nice guy. Like that he actually cares about this kid. So that's the only part that moved me.
Right. Does the kid disappear? I don't know. The kid's not there. Mom dies. Spoiler. Yeah. Mom just completely dies. She dies screaming, cursing God. Again, she should have been in a hospital. So maybe an alternate version of this is they thought they were too poor for a hospital. That's why she died. She actually would have been fine. She would have just gone to the hospital. It's just the flu. You're like, yeah, this is a very treatable disease that you have if you had just come in instead of camping out in your living room for 6 weeks.
That guy who visited your house wasn't a doctor. He just randomly stopped by people's house.
Yeah, this IV has tap water in it. That's pretty much your biggest problem right now.
And then she clicks the shoes together, and it's the beginning of the movie again.
So when she's dying, the dad says to her, like, gives her permission to die because women can't do anything without men's permission. He says, honey, you don't have to fight. I'm sorry. He says, "You don't have to fight any longer." And it's like, she hasn't fought at all. She thought she had a cold 3 days ago. And now she looks like she's been dead in a trunk for a month. Like, she's like, her hair's all frizzy. So it's like, finally, I don't have to fight anymore.
Being married to Brad Paisley will do that too.
Yes. So she dies. I don't think we see the kid again, or do we?
Well, not in that form, no.
Right. Um, Dalton completely disappears. No idea what happened to him. He retreats back
concert,
to,
right? Or no?
Maybe he retreats back to his loveless, sexless, non-romantic life.
Missing my wife from 11 years ago, who
exactly.
gets one line.
We also, another thing we don't see Dalton grieving. He had a better relationship with the mom than Rob Lowe did.
Yeah.
That would have been a great scene. Rob Lowe like comforting him and being like, "Look, my mom and I weren't close, but I know you guys were." Whatever. Anyway.
And I always expected when they said, because I'd seen it before, when he said to Dalton, it's like, "Have you ever lost somebody?" I thought he was going to say no, and then later in the movie, it's like, "Well, now I have, because I lost my neighbor who I was so close to." Perfect. But they never do anything with that.
Colin, we got to write a Christmas movie.
We have to Snyder cut the Christmas shoes.
Okay. So there's one last scene in this flashback, which is the entire movie, and that is Rob Lowe not grieving. Apparently nothing has changed him whatsoever in this movie. He's in his office and he finds this package that he had previously thrown away, the one that his mom had given him. Not thrown away, just like put on a shelf. He finds it, opens it up. It has a tin box in it. Opens up the tin box. Is there anything in the tin box? Is it just the letter?
I think it's just the letter. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually classic mom. This is a good detail. She packed up a tin box, put a single letter in it, and then mailed it across town to her son. Also doesn't make sense. Wouldn't it be like your mom dropped this off? I don't know. Why did she wrap it?
She mailed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. What's going on? She seems ambulatory. I don't know why she wouldn't just. Why did she send it to the office? Why didn't she send it to his house? Anyway,
I was wondering that too. Is it like a subtle passive aggressive, like you work too much?
Yeah. So he finds this letter. He opens it up and he finds this letter, and he's reading it, and she's basically like saying, "I'm so sorry. You're such an asshole." I chewed out Colin. I don't know what the letter said, but I got the drift, right? It's like, "Hey, you need to be a better person." And as he's reading the letter, we come back to the present of 2002. Let's do something really depressing real quick. 1986 to 2002 is what, 16 years? So actually, this won't matter to you because you were a child when this film came out, or not even a child, right? You were.
I would have been like 10. Yeah.
Right. To me, here's a depressing thing. We are closer to 2002 is closer to 1986 than we are to 2002. That's crazy. Let me talk about that letter though. That letter again does nothing. It's not emotional. It doesn't change Rob Lowe's life in any way. Why didn't he find the letter before he went to the department store? You goddamn idiots. It's so simple. He finds the letter and he's thinking about his life, and he's annoyed by this kid. He's like, "Kid, would you get out of my way? I'm trying to, and the kid's crying down. And he's like, "I want my mom. I love my mom." And he's thinking about this letter he got from his mom. And now I'm tearing up talking about this imaginary movie.
Well, this would be a better scenario.
So why didn't that happen? I don't know. Why doesn't Rob Lowe learn anything in this movie? It doesn't.
He learns to give a kid $5.
Yeah. All he learned is that kids sometimes need money.
Wouldn't it be funny if like the mom did the mom thing and there was a $5 bill taped to it?
I literally just made myself cry describing an imaginary version of this movie. So then we flash forward to the present, 2002. And he's reading the letter. That's the bridge, is this letter. There again, zero attempt to make Rob Lowe look 15 years older, which makes sense because Rob Lowe does not age. And there's another guy. Did we mention this at the beginning? When Rob Lowe is at the cemetery, there's this other guy there.
Yeah, because he says, "I never see anyone on Christmas." Which again,
I never see anyone on Christmas for some reason. And so Rob Lowe is talking to this guy. It felt very cruisy to me. It felt like he was kind of cruising a little bit.
Like he was trying to pick the guy up. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like if the other guy, like from the other guy's point of view, it's like, holy shit, is this old dude trying to pick me up at the front of my mom's grave? Now the viewers are not going to believe what this twist is. So there's this kid, there's this, like college kid there. He's wearing a Boston hat, a lot like Nathan used to wear. Probably a coincidence. Probably doesn't mean anything. Rob Lowe's talking to him, and he's like, hey, again, I totally said that. I have no idea what they're talking about. Probably like, boy, Christmas is great, huh? Yep, sure is. Do you ever lose anybody? Yep, me too. Okay, great, bye. And so he's like, hey, I don't even know how this comes up. He's like, you in school? And he's like, yeah, I'm in med school. Which I guess is supposed to pay off the fact that they were poor, except they never seemed poor. Like they kind of lived like doctors anyway.
Yeah, like anyway. Did he want to be a doctor to help people like his mom? I don't know.
Yeah, let's hear that. Let's hear the kids say that. Like no one's going to lose their mom again. Anyway.
Martha.
Right, yes, exactly. And so this kid leaves. This kid, I keep saying kid. He's probably like 24, right? Because it's 15 years.
Yeah, he'd be 25.
24.
So,
yeah, 20. Yeah. So this guy leaves, and Rob Lowe looks down and he sees the Christmas shoes in front of the gravestone, and he wipes the snow, and it's like, beloved poor mom, born in 1951, died in 1986, and that was the first time I realized, like an hour and 29 minutes in this 90-minute movie, is the first time I realized, oh, this movie is supposed to be taking place in the 80s. And he sees the shoes and he realized, so wait, does that mean the mom was like in her 20s, like 1972? But I want that prequel. The mom and the mechanic and like so anyway.
Barefoot in the park.
Yeah, exactly. Hair. So he looks down, he sees the Christmas shoes, and he realizes, holy crap, this whoever that was, he stole that kid's shoes and he just abandoned them here. No, he realizes that it's the same kid. And we get the second scene of Rob Lowe yelling at a car. So the car's pointing, hey, come back here. I want to talk to you about what? You learned nothing from this. Hey, come back here, kid. Like, remember I gave you $5? These shoes are kind of mine. You can't just abandon them like this.
You can't leave them to this dead lady. What's she going to do with them?
Yeah, right. So they're technically mine.
He cuts 20% of them off and walks off.
I do want to talk about one last thing, which is, why did the kid leave the shoes? Like, at least give us a line where he's.
And
like,
why now? Why after 15 years?
Why? It's not like it's a anniversary or anything. It's just like, no. Hey, oh, you come to the cemetery. He's like, yeah, my mom actually died on Christmas, so I like to come visit her. I'm in med school because obviously it would be this clunky, but it's like, I'm in med school because my mom died and I don't want anyone to do that. But now that I'm in med school, I feel like I can let her go. And that's why he leaves the shoes. Any reason he leaves the shoes. Instead, it just seems like he was cleaning out his closet. And he's like, I'm just gonna dump these. Also, weird thing that the kid basically had those shoes his whole life. Like the mom had them for like a day.
Like, did he take him to college with him? Like, my
exactly.
mom wore these shoes once.
Yeah, right. He's
like, there's some weird guys in college who did some weird stuff with those shoes.
Yeah. He's dating someone who's a total bee about him getting rid of these. She's like, I don't like these shoes. They're ghoulish. Your dead mom was wearing them. Please get them out of our condo. So that's why I had to go dump them.
I might catch hepatitis.
Yeah, exactly. And so with that, the movie ends with Rob Lowe having learned something, the kid having grown up to become a heart doctor, presumably.
Never got a puppy.
Yeah, Dalton, I guess he mentioned wanting to move to Florida, so he probably moved to Florida. And that's our movie. That is the Christmas Shoes.
Yes,
one of the very first made-for-TV Christmas movies in the modern mold.
Yeah, it inspired a lot of and it was a lot more complex, weirdly enough, than most Hallmark movies.
Yeah, it was oddly complex. I think it's certainly from a narrative standpoint more interesting, even if they bungled all of it. It's more interesting than most of the holiday movies I watch this time of year when I'm sweeping. But I guess I should say it's objectively better, but not necessarily more interesting. Like it definitely, it did not scratch that itch that I had. It was, to me, it was basically a bad movie, which is good because that's what you're looking for. Could you imagine if you accidentally put a good movie on this and we had to talk about that?
I don't think I've come across one or two in 5 years of doing this where I'm like, okay, that wasn't too bad. This was not one of this is bad. I usually ask, was this so bad it's good? But I think it was just it not so bad it's good, just bad and could have been good.
I enjoyed talking about
Yes,
it to
agreed.
you.
Yeah.
Too much of it, just, say what you will about those new Hallmark Lifetime Christmas movies. They're competent, right? Like you're not left with a million questions.
They know what they are.
So streamlined and simplified.
You could spend 2 hours breaking them down.
Right. Whereas this movie has so many things where it's just like, I just don't even know what is going on in this scene or whatever. As you guys know, if you watch this. Colin, thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for letting me take over and just talk for 2 hours straight.
No, it's fine. There's a lot to talk about here. This was enjoyable. Anything else you have to add before we go?
No, that's it. I've had a really great time. Thank you for being a great partner and talking about this.
Yes, a lot of fun.
I really appreciate, and I cannot wait to get this mask off.
Yes.
It was really irritating. And also, I am not kidding. I literally did make myself cry earlier thinking about this movie, a scene that did not happen in the movie. And so I'm very excited to take my mask off and wipe tears out of the ultimate narcissist. I made myself cry thinking about a scene that I just wrote on the fly, not something that actually happened. So
well, make sure I'm going to leave Eize's Twitter in the description of this movie. Make sure to follow him on Twitter, leave a comment, like all of that. Thank you, Eize, for joining, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.